Now that we're familiar with articulators in place of articulation, let's look at manner of articulation. Manner of articulation refers to how a sound is produced. So first we have stops or plosives. A stop is produced by the complete closure of articulators. So lips, tongue, velum, etc. So when there is complete closure, air can't be released. There are two types of stops, oral stops and nasal stops. So when speaking, air can come out of your mouth or through your nose. Try plugging your nose when you say ship or food. Ship, food. They sound pretty normal. Try plugging your nose when you say money or mango. Buddy, mango. You can't really say them because of the nasal sounds that are in those words. When you say these sounds, air is coming out of your nose, not your mouth. So that's why if you plug your nose, you can't say those sounds. So we can see this visualized in these images. Here you can see the nasal cavity is blocked by the soft palate or the velum in the back when producing an oral sound. But when you make a nasal sound, the soft palate or the velum is down or lowered so that air can go through the nasal cavity. So, back to stops. As we said, stops are created by complete closure. Oral stops, also known as plosives, can be heard at the beginning of words but, dot, and gut. In but, the lips come together to form a complete closure. In dot, the tongue and alveolar ridge come together to block the air. And in gut, the tongue and the velum come together. So, recalling our last lesson, we can say that these are bilabial, alveolar, and velar stops, respectively. You can see that these stop sounds because there's a complete closure. So the lips come together, the tongue touches the alveolar, and the tongue touches the velum. So you might be able to guess then that nasal stops are sounds like as in mom, as in nose, and as in the last sound in sing. Instead of air coming out of the mouth, it comes out of the nose, like we just said. The places of articulation, however, remain the same. Or an M sound is formed with the upper and lower lips, so it's a bilabial sound. Is with the alveolar ridge and tongue, so it is an alveolar sound. And with the velum and the tongue, so it is a velar sound. Next we have fricatives. Whereas stops are produced by a complete obstruction of air, fricatives are produced with only a partial obstruction of air. If you say sounds like s as in small, or f as in form, or th as in think, you'll notice that you are able to hold these sounds out. That's because there's only a partial obstruction of air, as opposed to a complete obstruction of air, as in stops. Try holding out a p sound. P. You can't do it. The air that is released is also turbulent in fricative sounds like s and f. So it kind of sounds like the wind blowing or a hissing sound. So we'll contrast these sounds with the proximants in the next lecture. So here you can see that these are fricatives because the articulator, the tongue, the teeth, the lips, aren't quite touching. You may have also noticed that nasal sounds can be held out, like or although they can be held out, there is a complete closure of the articulators, so they are still classified as stops. However, possibly because of this, these sounds are often not referred to as stops, but simply as nasals. So there's one more manner of articulation that we'll talk about in this lecture. It's a combination of a stop and a fricative. So when you say change, both the ch sound at the beginning and the j sound at the end are what we call affricates. An affricate is a stop followed by a fricative. A ch sound starts with an alveolar stop or a t sound and is followed by a post-alveolar fricative sh. The j sound is similar. It starts with an alveolar stop or d sound and is followed by a post-alveolar fricative. Affricates are difficult to represent on these sagittal sections or diagrams, so we're not including one here. So, to summarize, we've talked about two primary manners of articulation, stops and fricatives. We can classify stops as either oral or nasal. We also talked about affricates, which are stops followed by fricatives. Next, we're going to talk about approximants, trills, and flaps, which are also manners of articulation.